Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Angineering Tech Show. And here are your hosts, Goshe King and Joe Green.
Hello, Joe. How are you, brother?
I'm doing very well today. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, what is this engineering? Is that a play on words?
Yes, it is, Goshe. It is a play on words. It's a little combination of ANCAP and engineering. And ANCAP, if you want to talk a little bit about that, tell us what that's about.
Yeah, well, I kind of know, but my audience needs to know. What the hell is an ANCAP? Are you a resident of some kind of ANCAPistan?
It's a new country that's forming.
Oh, hell yes. What's the constitution of this country?
It probably won't have one. Not much of one, at least.
I thought it was going to be anarcho-capitalism.
Yes, anarcho-capitalism with NAP, non-aggression principle. Yeah, I think that would lead the way.
No, really. Did you decided to change engineering into engineering because you wanted to tie ANCAPistan to engineering?
Exactly. We wanted to tie a little ANCAP to engineering.
What is the ANCAP?
The ANCAP is a little combination of, and correct me if I'm wrong, anarcho-capitalism. Anarchy and capitalist.
Anarchy
combined.
and capitalism.
Yep.
Is capitalism more like free markets, or is it like corporatism with, fascist?
Oh, definitely free markets.
Free market? Well, what that? Well, I guess that's a topic for another episode.
I think that would be
and maybe for economists like Bob Murphy or somebody to explain what free market means. We're engineers. We just know 1 and 2 and zeros.
We can do some math.
I mean, what's this podcast going to be about? Is it going to be about ANCAPistan or engineering or what?
It's going to be a little of everything. I think the podcast is going to talk about how engineering can help make our lives better, and also how a free market approach to engineering and society is a good way to go.
That sounds awesome. So we can get to talk about our nerdy shit.
Yeah, definitely a lot of nerdy shit on here.
Okay, can we say shit on live radio? I'm not really sure,
Probably
Joe.
not, actually.
If we want to be on a national syndicated radio or something, we probably should not say shit.
Clean it up. Poop.
Poop.
I guess you could
poop
say.
Better?
Poop
Are you
is
allowed
better.
to say poop?
It's a child-friendly word.
Okay, all right. That's all right. So we'll have a little bit of research to do if we want to get on some talk radio. You're really funny, Joe. You're like a little funny guy on the radio or something.
Yes, I think my wit comes out.
Speaking of which, since you've defined a little bit about the engineering and their relationship between ANCAPistan or anarcho-capitalism or whatever, how does that tie into libertarianism? First of all, do you mind describing yourself? Where do you fall on the spectrum of political philosophy, political or philosophical end of things?
I would say politically and in that aspect, I'm still kind of finding my way there. When I grew up in a Republican household, my dad was, very
Boo.
Republican.
Can I say boo?
You may.
Mm-hmm.
He's very Republican, conservative. My mom was more Democrat, but my dad had the louder voice, so it kind of I started to follow that pathway in through college. Never really paid too much attention to what was going on or looked into it in much detail. One of those primarily was like Fox and conservative talk radio, that kind of stuff.
Boo again.
Yes.
Continue,
yes.
please.
Many boos for that. Then after college, I moved to San Diego. I cared even less about politics because the weather was so nice outside. There was much other things to do that were better. Then, I kind of cared here and there, but not really much. When I came to New Hampshire, I, met a good friend at work who is sitting across me right now, and he kind of introduced me to the whole libertarian ideas and philosophies, and I started to read more about it.
You can't blame it on me, man. You're a free individual. You can make your own choices. You can't just blame me. That's not going to fly.
Say you opened my eyes. Definitely pointed me to the door. And
it's a curse.
Yep.
If I haven't told you yet, Joe, it is a curse. There is no turning back. Is it too late?
Not already.
Into the rabbit hole already. You can curse me for life.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad you have made that journey, but you still, what do you think that you're closer to minarchism than you are to anarchism and libertarian philosophies?
That's a good question. I would say,
How do you see state? I mean, do you see state as a necessary evil, or do you see it as an evil like the ANCAPs do?
I could see it as it could have some positives. I mean, I guess there are some good ideas of having communities. I think communities would be a better, a good approach to society. I would say having state control stuff is not good. I think having states have power in general is not really good. I would say, yeah, the smaller government is better if you have to have it.
Yep. Well, I think for another podcast, maybe we'll have a guest on or something that can sort of trash the idea of small state or prove us otherwise.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, Ancapistan is the ideology where small communities live together voluntarily, not just at a barrel of a gun, but voluntarily agree to a set rules that define the society, pre-existing society, and then you voluntarily either join it or leave it, and then either find other societies that meet your criteria or make some compromises to live in communities where you still agree with their rules, and not at the barrel of a gun, but voluntarily still, not like the way the state.
So, Goshe, I would like to hear about how your journey towards libertarianism and how you found it.
Well, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but for our audience, maybe it's a good time to say something. I was very apolitical. Prior to this, I grew up in a household of a mixed bag where my mom and dad were liberal at certain issues and conservatives at the other. And because my heritage is not from the United States, so the political spectrums back there is almost entirely socialism. Just different strains of socialism. But the conservatism that's in them is mostly religious types. So I grew up in a household where, fiscal conservatism existed, yet at the same time they hated the ideas of, weapon ownership. Like in libertarianism, most of the libertarian, I can't speak for everybody, but from what I gathered, most of the people are non-pacifists. They do believe in the right of self-defense. And the right of self-defense, requires you to have some sort of ownership, whether you hate it or like it. You kind of need the means to protect yourself. Whereas though in my family background, that wasn't the case. My father was against it. And I grew up sort of like, not really thinking about it. But anyway, it turns out after college, I met some friends and they, introduced me to the ideas of liberty. But at the time, conspiracy theories were very rampant.
Yeah.
And I got involved with Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. And from there, I got involved with Ron Paul,
2012, right?
2012, yes. Yeah. Sorry, thank you. 2012. Ron Paul 2012. I had blank there for a moment. And then from there, I was dragged into the state of New Hampshire for Free State Project. And so the Free State Project really changed my life. Actually, PorcFest, Porcupine Freedom Festival, is where I actually learned the word anarchy and what it really means, to the contrary of what, we were told in school. And that we were also, and that's where I kind of became interested enough to start picking up books after books, economics and history and philosophy, political philosophy, right? And so that's how I became a libertarian. And when I first became a libertarian, I was pretty much a minarchist, small state guy. And there's a running joke amongst libertarians now. And what they say is, if you're a minarchist, give yourself 3 months of reading or something like that, and until you become an ANCAP. And that's pretty much was my story. It probably took me less than a year to to get on the other side. Now, I do consider myself a classical liberal for a couple of reasons. One of them is that the founders of, or the champions of our movement, our political philosophy, such as Murray Rothbard and others, sort of subscribe themselves to be classical liberals, especially the ones in Europe like Mises and, other guys. So that's why I consider myself a classical liberal. Kind of resonates in many ways, one of which is if you look at the world internationally, libertarians are not called libertarians elsewhere. They're called liberals. Like South American libertarians call themselves liberals. And the same is the case in Europe and even in Southeast Asia, is where I'm from. So I kind of like that.
Classical liberal?
Yeah, it sounds better instead of libertard. When people call you libertard, it's hurtful.
Yes, that's not a good word.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Mr. Joe, you're an engineer.
I am an engineer.
Oh, hell
That
yeah.
is very true.
What? Well, please describe yourself, your engineering career a little bit.
So I went to school for aeronautical engineering. I picked that field because I like math and science. So I took aeronautical, thought it would be interesting. After college, I moved out to San Diego and found a job. I was first I looked for aeronautical stuff, but then that turned out to be few and far in between. So I went for any engineering job where I found mechanical engineering, a little HVAC company in San Diego. And that set me on a course where today I'm an energy engineer. But that one I mostly do energy analysis and life cycle costs for buildings, both like new buildings, renovations, energy code compliance and stuff like that.
That's fascinating, Joe, because I didn't know that you graduated as an aeronautical engineer. My younger brother graduated as an aeronautical engineer, and with some really good conversations about, but he is in the field. He is in the aircraft.
With the work that, I guess with HVAC engineering, we deal a lot with different organizations and also different government, I guess, entities with their codes that we have to follow and standards that are recommended to follow too. Yes, as part of the, I guess, HVAC building industry, we deal a lot with government, I guess, entities at different levels, from, I guess, building inspectors and planners to kind of code departments who review our drawings. I think from that we get a good perspective at how the government runs, kind of some of their inefficiencies, both, I guess, with our time and materials as well.
That's fascinating that you're able to analyze as you do your job at work and see the fallacies of the state and the inefficiencies. With your description, Joe, it's something that I should, or we should consider, is that because of your energy expertise in this field, Bob Murphy wrote a book or something about some energy. Do you recall what that was?
I don't. I know that Bob Murphy was with the Institute for Energy Research.
See, that's pretty fascinating because we can have a good conversation about energy with him.
Mm-hmm. We get into details of economics behind it and different decisions.
What else, Joe?
Well, that's about my engineering background, actually, Goshe. I'd like to hear a little bit about yours.
Well, what about me?
What do you do for work, Goshe?
Well, thanks for asking, Joe.
Yes.
I, too, am an engineer. I graduated from University of Maryland years ago. And my work is mostly, I'm a design engineer, mechanical engineer by profession. And I pretty much do similar to what you do mechanical systems. The one of the biggest beef I have with what we do is some unnecessary regulation that forces people to purchase things that they can live without, but because of the codes they're forced to implement. Although it does provide us with cushy jobs.
That is true. We can't bite the hand that feeds us.
That's true. And so I am, sometimes I am a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Torn.
Yeah.
then it says, well, can we get... So sometimes I wonder, could we live without it? And the answer is sometimes yes. But because code requires it, I have to design it, and I have to bite my tongue.
That is a dilemma, especially when you can see someone else's money being wasted like that.
That's right.
So you didn't always do mechanical engineering, or at least your education wasn't always mechanical engineering before you were into more computers and softwares, correct?
That's right. I had a bachelor's in computer programming from back home. And so that was my early education, although that was more than 17, 18 years ago, so I wouldn't really count on that much. That part of technology is way behind me. Can't speak for it much anymore. Can't really program anything for shit. Oh, I used that word again, Joe.
We are going to be adult-only content, I guess.
But other than that, I'm still pretty tech savvy because of that. Probably I could probably do algorithms and maybe write code if I wanted to, but I haven't in 18 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. I know that you stay pretty up to date with the different privacy tools out there as well.
Well, I'm a firm believer in privacy, as much as I'm a believer in security. But it's as Edward Snowden have once said that or was it Glenn Greenwald who said that people pretend that they don't care about their privacies, but the minute you ask them to hand over their email with passwords, not a single one has taken him up to the task yet.
Nope.
And so, it's funny because if you care to put curtains in your bathrooms and your bedrooms, then believe me, you do care about your privacy. And then in the wrong hands, it could be very dangerous for your livelihood and even for your life. That's why I take privacy quite seriously, and I learned from a lot of other IT tech guys who do this for a living. And so one of the things that, since we mentioned this, one of the great resources that I've always recommended to everyone, and in no way this place had any advertisement to our podcast, but because it's such a great source, I like to mention it. And it's called privacytools.io, where you can learn, how to secure everything, pretty much, what to do and what not to do even.
I like that site. I do use it some. I'm not the most tech savvy, but it has helped me definitely go through the internet and phone setup. It's very useful.
Well, Joe, since we're a tech show, and we've been running our mouths about ourselves the whole time, let's get a little bit into let's get into the tech news of this week. I wanted to talk to you about the black hole.
Oh.
Since it's a hot button topic. What do you think?
It is. I see pictures of it everywhere now.
Wow, that's fascinating, isn't it? Finally, we have an image that can sort of looks like what a black hole might look like.
Mm-hmm.
And what's further more fascinating is that it's 55 million light years away.
That is far.
So the listener who's listening and maybe doesn't know, I shouldn't assume that everyone knows everything. I most certainly don't. 1 light year is 6 trillion miles, like Earth miles.
Mm-hmm.
1 light year. So times 55 million light years, that's really far. And to take an image that far, that must have took some effort.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of those 8 telescopes that were put together to do this?
I have. I believe, I forget what they call it, like the event something telescopes. How they have the telescopes situated across Earth to basically make Earth one big telescope and put all their images together.
Synchronized, and then bits and bits of data that was collected to collaborate to turn into one picture. This woman named Katie Bowman from MIT started this whole thing 5-6 years ago, who was working on some algorithms that actually were able to facilitate combining these different imagery into one.
That is very neat.
Yeah, there's much more that is out there that people can learn about. But one of the things that it sort of proves is the Einstein's theory of relativity, and that he was right all along in terms of his mathematical calculations. So what do you think where we're gonna go from here now that we have an image? Obviously, I feel like there is going to be better imagery in the future.
Oh, yeah. I think this will hopefully just be the start. I'm sure next they'll just keep gathering data on it and analyzing that data to see what they can find. That's such a far distance away. It'd be very neat if they could send a probe into a black hole, but...
Well, I mean, they have recently seen, with this advanced technology of the imagery live feed maybe, that they've seen a star fall into the black hole and what's happened to it. And there was some, I don't know who, at some school or something like that, or maybe it was NASA, who created the image or animation that explained what happened and pretty much destroyed.
That's not I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm gonna look into it. But the black hole, I think that it will hopefully lead to either more discoveries or just encourage people to kind of explore space some more. It kind of, I guess, gets people excited for it, so then they might support more research and kind of branch out from here.
I was reading an article and written by some physicist. I forget the name again, but the physicist said that it not only proves the theory of relativity, but also discredits the Big Bang in some ways. That would be an interesting stuff to even or scientific explanation at least, or one of them, anyways. Where does that lead us from here? Because it's going to reveal more secrets than we already know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That'll be pretty neat. I wonder, definitely have to look out how it disproves or conflicts with the Big Bang and all of that.
Right. I think that the professor needs to just kind of write a paper on it.
Yeah.
And then present so everyone can peer review it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm interested in knowing more is about what's the relationship of a black hole with the theory of relativity, because we do know that theory of relativity has something to do with time, distance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And speed. And so how does that tie into black hole? It's still a mystery to me.
That is a very good question. I guess I don't know if it's just because they assume light is not able to escape the black hole. It's just like a dense mass and such a, I guess, mass and high dense thing. It just sucks in everything that it would. I guess it distorts that whole. Well, I don't know.
Right, and the gravitational forces are so great, compared to, gravitational forces elsewhere, that everything that's in this vicinity gets sucked in and then destroys on contact.
Yeah.
For a lack of better term. But then there are other theories that there are universes beyond black holes. Well, is that a speculation or is that a science?
I imagine as of right now, it's all speculation.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat to speculate about that if you could use a black hole for either like a time warp or hit other dimension. I think it's more science fiction, kind of fun to think where it could lead. I guess it's something we won't really know until someone goes into a black hole and
reports back.
Yep. Sends an email or a message in a bottle to say they landed somewhere.
That's amazing. Do second by second, moment by moment, feedback as you're entering the black hole and what's happening. And then you can also provide imagery,
Yep.
That would be, pretty cool thing to see. Well, that's all the time we have for today's podcast. We didn't get to talk about black hole and other tech news as much as we wanted to because we ran out of time. Thank you so much for listening. Please come back soon.
Please subscribe to us via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, and YouTube. And visit us on engineering.tech. This was Angineering Tech Show.